right, we need to try to use this tractor. We haven't used it in a while. I see it's kind of decided the calcium effect again, so we need to get it over and air it up, and that'll be step one. Hopefully it will start. I think we put new batteries in this one, did we not? At any rate, we're gonna get started right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Rusty Oliver Man. I think I have to stop though a minute and clean the camera. It kind of looks like you're a little bit fuzzy. All right, is that better? I think so. I don't know, I never had that before. Whatever was on there was kind of clear, but it was also very, what I want to say, very hard to clean off. That's full, actually a little too much, but hopefully that's, you know, not something bad. It's just, I probably put a little too much in. That's way over full too, so I don't know what's happening around here. I guess everything I got makes oil. But at any rate, what's probably happened is it's drained down all the filters because it sat so long. All right, because I'm lazy. There we go. Got the cutout switch turned on. Oh. Cold start. There we go. Oh, that front tire's going low too. What is happening? This thing needs to be hosed off, which I would do today, but I accidentally hit the garden hose with my lawnmower, so I guess I'll have to get a hose mender or something. Let's just shut her off. Yeah, it badly needs washed off from that grinding feed. It's probably not good to leave that sit on here, but it'll buff. Oh, all right. We need to put air in that tire for some reason. That one's probably okay. That one is a little bit bulgy, so we better tackle that one. This needs desperately to have me take the tires off the rims and make this more better, you see, before it totally rots away. Maybe that can be a summertime project we do. If I got some of that rust gel stuff, I could probably bring most of this back around, but it's getting pretty bad back there. That's the way it was when I bought it, you know. Let's fire up the old air compressor and get to work. Yeah, I'm sure it's totally empty now. Air compressor. Well, it is going. Will it shoot out fluid when I take this off? No? That one's actually maybe probably gonna work. We just gotta wait on our air compressor to catch up to the chat here. In the meantime, we'll just sit here and appreciate the beauty of this very original tractor. That's one of the ones that I think I made a good choice on, you know. I thought I paid too much for it at the time, but I don't know. You won't find many of them very much nicer, so I'm happy. All right, that's more better. The sun's setting on us, but that's the perfect time to start a video. Everybody loves it when I do that, so that's why I do it. So let's take this up and get to our project that we're going to work on. We are going to try to resurrect this planter, so maybe we can plant with it. One of my lids left the chat. I think I see it. Good thing I didn't run over it. I was out here a while ago pulling that Alice Chalmers around, and I didn't see it then. We're gonna hope that blower runs because we've got parts, friends. There, that's more better. Now, I really wanted to hook it up, but I don't think my jack, I don't think it does jack things anymore. I was hoping maybe there was enough slop in it, but that didn't work. So maybe trick number 3 would be to pull the pin on the jack, try to roll the planter forward, and it'll lower itself, inevitably on my foot. Okay, now what we need to do is try to find the pair of hoses that goes to the blower. This is scrap iron, so I don't know why we even fool with that. All right, here's one, and here's one. So we need to follow them. These two. Now we really need to, well, we'll sort that out in a minute. Whoa. Well, that didn't work. That's what I was afraid of. I think I ran it backwards, which resulted in hose of death failure. All right, friends, I passed another brainstone. I remembered something that's pretty important. And I guess why I didn't think of this earlier was because the guy had hydraulic tips on the line that went to the blower, but it was actually plumbed up for the PTO pump, and that is much different. So when the PTO pump is on, you got this line from here up to here, and then this line, I already moved it, but it was hosed into there, and that's what you got to have when you have it run on the PTO pump. And I looked at my other planter just to make sure I wasn't dreaming all this, but it's true. When you have it hooked up to Power Beyond or to the I actually also dug out the owner's book for one of these, and in there they show the picture of the supply hose in the top of the remote, and then the other one returning into the housing directly, because you can't have any restriction in your return. That's obvious. And since I don't have it plumbed up yet for Power Beyond, that's why I thought I'd just test it, but I was having trouble because I didn't have this set up right. So I think we're going to be able to get more than just a split second out of it now, is what I'm saying. You have to get plugs, and of course I didn't have O-ring plugs, and being a weekend, you know, after hours, like a Sunday, you ain't finding much in town. So I eventually did find enough to cobble her together, just so we can keep playing with it, because I want to make sure this is ready to go. If I don't like this, I'll change it back later. And of course they didn't have two of the same thing, so we're going to go two different things. But basically, 1/2 inch O-ring thread to, I just got it to where it went to 1/2 inch pipe plug. You can't even get at this so-called supply of Tractor Store, you can't even get 3/8 pipe plugs or anything anymore. Their selection of stuff is horrendous. And I mean, hydraulics, that's a big thing where that could save you sometimes, you know, if you're farming and need a quick repair. So I wish they would keep stuff like that on hand, but alas, they do not. So we're just going to go ahead and go with this cobbling of stuff I've got. It'll work. It's just the idea that if they had had a 1/2 inch plug, O-ring plug, it would have been a lot simpler. I'll get some eventually, and or maybe I won't, you know. I could have had this changed over for 83 cents instead of $25 or whatever. We'll take everything with us here. Now, if you're going to ask me why this has to be, I don't really know. I can just tell you it has to be this way. You know, if you don't do it this way, sad things happen. But I don't understand. I guess I kind of understand what's happening here. But essentially, this is supposed to be like a bypass port on this regulating valve that you turn for air pressure. And so I guess what the trouble is, it's like it's sending some oil up and then it's crossing into the return oil, and it's not playing nice with each other in that way. I don't know, but I just know it has to be this. And it makes sense when you see how it's put together now. The flow of oil is what I'm saying. It makes more sense this way, which you'll see in just a second when I explain it, after I get this plugged off. Okay, so now what happens when the oil comes in, it comes in up here to this filter. That's a filter. It leaves through the filter, comes over to this. This is where you regulate your pressure, your speed of your fan, basically, how fast the fan spins. Then it leaves this up here at the top, goes into the hydraulic motor, leaves the hydraulic motor, goes through the cooler, leaves through the cooler, goes back to the tractor in an uninterrupted flow of oil. And the other way, what it was doing was the bypass oil was from here up to here. So then the oil leaving the motor, I don't know. I don't know why it was an issue, but I can only imagine that there's some other kind of pressure or too much flow doing opposites or something. I don't know. We'll find out in a minute. If it still blows it apart, then we probably still have problems. And the problem that I assume that we will have is that I'm not getting enough return flow because of several things. Well, number one could be perhaps the tip of the maybe it's not very good and it's restricting things. That is a thing. I mean, tips do go bad, so that's possible. That's actually not it. That's the tip for their lifting and lowering, which I was messing with and never got there. But if it still doesn't work this way, then what we're going to do is we're going to have to plumb in right away before we can even use this tractor for anything. Sadly enough, this tractor has the temperature sensor back here in the plug we need. And most of those, the thing is up under the floorboard. This tractor doesn't even have a port for it, not drilled or nothing. So if we want to put that in a factory location, we would have to do a lot of stuff, friends. We would have to drill and tap, and to do that without getting shavings everywhere, we'd really have to take the top off and everything. I did order some fittings, I thought, and I have to see what I did with them because it's been so long ago. But I thought I ordered some fittings where I'm going to try to essentially thread on a T here and just put the cinder in the end and then run my hose out to the other side and have this set up like I do on the other tractor. I'm pretty sure I have all the stuff. I just got to dig it back up because this is a project I wanted to get to for a long time and just have never had the chance, and now we're gonna have it potentially. Let's see, will it fires right up. Now, is it gonna blow apart today? Nope, that's all it took. Changing that bypass line was all it took to get air. Oh, whoa! She came alive there. I don't know what I did. My lever went, okay, why is that so? That's more than we need. I wanted to run it like, but I don't have enough stuff going on here, see? Okay, let me get something to tie my lever back. This also poses the curious question as to whether the guy before me thought he was going to try to run it without the PTO pump and he couldn't get it to work correctly, so he gave up on it, you know? All right, air. Now we should be able to turn this knob and it'll go faster. That's a lot of vibration though. I don't know what. And what I'm getting at why that would make a difference is that lot of vibration is potentially what cracked this all to pieces. So I don't know if there's something I can do to make that not vibrate as much. It runs fairly smooth. I don't know how fast it actually has to go without that elbow hooked up because I can't see the gauge then, you know. I don't think that runs that fast. If I had to guess, I'd say it runs about right there. There we go, we got blower. And that is important step number one. Because without the blower, you ain't doing no planting. And all things considered, it runs pretty good. Kind of feels like just curious to see if this gauge even remotely works. Alright, so we got to get more parts. Oh, it just blew that thing off again. That's okay. My hose clamps weren't very good. So, I got all new lines coming. Hopefully with some hoses that aren't about shot, and I'll get some new clamps and stuff. But the blower runs. That was important step number one. Okay, enough tractor. Now, important step number two is going to be, will it raise up and down? I started to experiment with that, and then I had a bad problem. And the bad problem I had was I couldn't get the tip on this one hose to go into the tractor because it's too rusty. So I bought new tips, and that's going to be, of course, if I can get the... Can I get that out of there? Because I see it's a JIC hose adapted to pipe thread. So we'll have to check on that. And I'm just looking it over. I mean, I'm not necessarily to the point that I would replace the hoses yet. But what I am going to do, that would be... yeah, I'm talking to myself here, but what I'm saying is what I think I will do right away, and I won't do it today, of course, to just try it, but I'm going to unhook the markers from this rickety setup, because right now it's plumbed in where, like, when you raise, it goes to the marker valve, then it selects one side or the other, and then it returns out of the, and I don't want that. I want it to up and down on one lever, markers on another lever. Power beyond will be ran off of the tractor separately, and then I don't have, it'll be just like the other planter. You got all your functions separate. You can shut off whatever, however you'd want. But today, just to try it, I'm gonna have to do the thing. Now I want to make sure eventually, maybe I want to do that first before I move it. I was thinking about pulling it forward, but I don't think I want to do that yet. I got all new chains, you see, to make this happen. And I think what I'm going to do first, though, is try to get the tip off of that hose and just watch it go up and down a time or two to make sure that function is going to go. Like I said, we're still going to have to, we're going to replumb our stuff, which is perfectly okay. It just is one of those things where it'd be a lot nicer to, you know, have it set up like the other one. I'm not sure. I've been going back and forth about, do I replace everything right away, or do I roll the dice? You know, I'm leaning more towards just rolling the dice on a lot of stuff and just seeing what happens. Because the thing about these hoses is they've got some cracking in the insulation, but they're not bare metal yet. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't go again. I might replace, like, I don't know if I would replace that one maybe. But you can definitely spend a ton of money on frivolous things when you may not have to right away. You know, we can wait till we're in the middle of planting in the field and then it breaks, and then we waste half a day getting it fixed in, you know. That sounds like the thing we would do. But that is neither here nor there. Let's get back on focus. Focus right now is going to be getting this apart so we can try it up and down just to see that it really will do that. And then once we get that, we'll go on. I might actually get new blower hoses, because look at that one. That one's pretty bad. That one's not as bad, but maybe we'll do it in stages. Like the first stage is all the hoses on the blower new. The second stage will be new lift hoses, but for now we're just going to connect them together. And that would be that. Although I need to find out what kind of I guess those are just pipe thread ends, actually, swivel pipe thread. So that's handy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here, friends. Maybe I'll go all the hoses replaced that go through the tongue, and I'll save the rest of it for later. I don't know. I can get I get sidetracked easy thinking about things. I like thinking about things and how I'm going to solve them. That's one thing that I like to do, and I cut out a lot of time in the tape where I just am not saying anything. I just stare at the same thing for like 20 minutes. I don't suppose this is going to work, but it's certainly worth a try. That would be tight. We don't want that. We want loose. Oh my goodness, it's going to work. How is this even possible? Oh, is it because the adapter looks to be brass? Holy Knudsen. All right, now it should go in there. It should go in there. Actually, the hoses on the tractor are worse than the ones on the blender, aren't they? Okay, don't I need to move the Super Cheap Super Duty so that the marker doesn't hit it in the side? Probably. Because this is coming down. Uh-oh, we got another problem, don't we? Is it under tension? Or is it rusted in there so tight? I think it's rusted in there so tight. Be nice to give this time to work its magic, but we don't have that time. So we're just going to spray it. I'll spray all the hinge points of it too. Uh-oh, Zep, come on. Oh, that is much shorter than I anticipated that it would be. That's cool though, they made it where you can, I see what they did there. They made it where you can just clip it right back here, and now you don't ever lose your marker pen. Yeah, okay, well, that was a mistake I just made, because now it's going to fall all the way down before I get the truck moved. Yeah, that's what I figured it would do. See, it's got no oil in the lines, essentially. Or probably not very much. But we need to go up, take the locks out of the wheels, and then see what happens. Consequently, someone's going to ask about this, how these markers work. That little valve in there just goes back and forth all day long. Every time you raise it, it switches to the other side. So one time you pick it up, it'll drop the left one. That's actually the right one, but left to me and looking at it, left one. It'll drop the left one. The next time you raise it up, it flips over, and then when you put it down, the next time it drops that one. And it just goes back and forth all the time. So like when you get to the end, you might have to lower it and raise it once to get the marker that you want to go whichever direction. And that's why I don't like it that way. I like it on its own remote, so that I can just not put the markers down when I don't need them or whatever. But then you have to have, in this case, 3 sets of remotes to run everything on your tractor, which is why they do this, so that you could get by with, you know, essentially, if you ran the PTO pump to run the hydraulic system, the blower and that, then you would get by with one set of remotes the way it's plumbed up now, because these two would be to the PTO pump, these two would be for your up and down, and then that would also regulate your markers. So you could get by with a tractor that didn't have quite the hydraulic system that these do. These have a hydraulic system that can do anything you want. So that's why I do it this way, because it works a lot nicer to just run the hydraulics for the blower off the tractor's hydraulic pump, and then it stays running the whole speed the whole time. You don't have to worry about the PTO pump messing up or whatever. You just don't have, and then you don't have that big bulky thing sitting right on the back there in your way. But if you have a tractor with open center hydraulics, like a 1550 or 1650 or some other brand of tractor, then the simplest way is to run it off the PTO pump, because you can do it. There is a way to plumb it up to do it, but it's a lot more complicated, and it takes an extra hose to do it the way they said to do it in the book. Because you remember, in open center hydraulics, the hydraulic oil has to keep making the circuit the whole time, or it'll blow the relief valve on the tractor, and then you ain't gonna accomplish anything hydraulically, because the oil can't do it, you see. But when you run it off of like an open center tractor, I got to think about this, I can't remember. Then you run, I think, the bypass. One of these hoses goes like a third line all the way up and goes to the big plug on the floorboard that is like zero pressure return, and that might be the bypass from that valve. But then I don't know, yeah, that might be what it is. You might run a third hose out of this, the bypass for that valve, and then plug off one of them up here. That might be how it is for those. I can't remember that. But then when you take it off of your tractor, like when you're done planting at the end of the season, you had better have a way that you can couple your two pressure and return hoses together so that they can loop. Otherwise it's going to blow the relief valve and the tractor won't work, unless you go to all the trouble of changing it back over from Power Beyond, which is not just a flip of a switch. I mean, you got to go in and change pipe plugs and things. So that's why I say, if it's open center, the PTO pump is probably easier. But if you have a tractor like this, this is easier. Up. Let's see if we can get the locks out. This is how we canoodled ourselves somehow on that other planter, so we need to get a set of these factory ones. All right, let's see what happens. This is where it could all fold up into sadness. The tractor's a little noisy because it's getting low on hydraulic oil, I think. Everything looks good there. How did we do here? See, actually that marker's plumbed up, so this will have extended out whilst it was sitting here. We're gonna have to, that's why another reason why we want to disconnect the markers. Boy, I think she worked just the way we wanted. Our terribly rusty chains, though, are why we're not gonna pull it right now. If we could get if we can flip the chains off, I'm not opposed to pulling it forward. Just to see the seed transmission move from the wheels. I got new wheel chains too, because these are pretty rusty. And those wheel chains were screaming down the highway, so they probably aren't very good. Come on. this junky jack, we don't want to lose it. Or we don't want to leave it out here and run it over, is what I'm saying, with something else. Let's pull it forward and see if stuff moves. Looks like it. That shaft, the clutches are moving. And if we raise it up, oh, come on. Pull it forward, everything stops. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, tractor, quiet down. All right, I think that we might have us something here. That blower hose making noise. We got to wait on our AGCO parts so that we can continue work on our blower system. But we can continue working on this by moving to working on the units themselves, because there shouldn't be anything that isn't doable. Everything seems to turn just fine. The only thing I found that didn't turn was that adjuster, which we can pull that off of there and heat it up and get it freed up. I had to do that on several of them. On the other planter, it needs a bath to get rid of some of this magical fuzz that grows on everything. But I think that if we just clean it up and we do the thing, I think we're going to be fine. I think everything, I think it's all going to work, friends. It obviously moved that because the keys are in a different position than they were a minute ago, so that was working fine. So if we've got power from the wheels to the front shaft, and we've got power through our transmission to this shaft, why, that's all we need. Now the only thing we got to do is put the new chains on the units to run the seed meters here. They all turn, so it's just going to be a matter of cleaning them out and making sure that they are, you know, the best they can be. I ordered new little plungers, plugs. I talked about that in one of the other videos because that's a thing. But I think we're going to have us something here, and I think we'll be able to use this actually. And people are going to ask now, well, first of all, I won't be able to have markers because I only got one. I guess I could run one marker and then just freestyle on the way back, but I can just do it with no markers. I did it for years that way. The reason that I had my cousin plant the last couple years, the one year I was getting so far behind, and then he said something about, hey, I could run over and do that. And I said, absolutely. So he planted corn while I planted soybeans. And what that showed me, which is why I asked him to do it again last year, is his planter used so much less seed than the plate planters. And that was enough evidence for me that I needed to do something differently, because I bet I used not quite half the amount of seed. But the plate planters, they're not as precise. They don't, you know, they plant double sometimes, or they don't, you know what I'm saying. So that's why I wanted something that was more precision, and I just let him do it last year, and then I was behind again anyway. So we planted in the dark, and that was foolishness. So hopefully we won't have to have a repeat of that again, you know. This happened to come along, and I think this is going to do what I want. It just needs a little love, like almost everything I own. It comes here in baskets, and it gets more better. So we're going to redo the plumbing on the blower, and then we're going to fix the center. We're going to replace the center section here. Verdict is out on the air gauge. It didn't really move today, but I don't have it sealed up good enough to tell whether it really was doing what it was supposed to. But this is very simple. There's not much here that, you know, basically things have to turn and they can't leak air. And if you got those two problems solved, it's going to plant. So I think we're in good shape. We just have to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we just have to keep plugging away, making it better. And since I don't have any markers, or both markers, I think I'm just going to ignore the marker hoses for now. Crappy as they are, we're just not even going to look at them. We're going to leave it alone. And we're going to plumb up the blower new. And we might plumb up the wheel lift cylinders new, but I don't even know that I want to do that. I think that the hoses look decent enough to go. I mean, they've kind of been protected because they're underneath of things. That one's older than the other one. But I don't know. I'm thinking we're going to just roll with it this time and see what happens. And then if we have to fix something, we will. All right, well, you're getting too hot, so I guess it's time to call this one here. I got plenty of footage anyway. But that's the plan. We're going to roll the dice with it. I think this planter will be fine. It will work. We're just going to do a little bit of replumbing on things to make it better, and then we're going to go about our merry way. So that's where we're going to leave this one. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.